Okay, guys, I've got Roboguide up here, and I'm just going to minimize that, maximize this. And the first thing you're going to want to do is just learn how to maneuver in Roboguide. All right, so if you do not have a mouse, you're probably going to want to get a mouse because it's going to be kind of hard to maneuver without that. But if you don't have a mouse, you can always do mouse commands here. So if you click on this little mouse up here, and it'll show you some different functions you can do while um, using the mouse. Okay, so if you forget what you need to do here, then I would say just don't forget to click on this mouse here. Now, as far as panning, there's a little center part on your mouse. You can just roll it in and roll it out to pan the robot in and out. Now, let's say that you wanted to actually maybe just rotate up and down or side to side where the robot is. Maybe you just wanted to kind of reorient it and see the front of it versus the back of it. The way you do that is you just hold down the right click button. Okay, so if you hold down right click, you should be able to go up and down or over and all around. All right. Now, let's just say something happens and you get way over here and you're like, where'd my robot go? I can't find it, you know. So don't freak out if that happens because it will happen. All you have to do is hold down the center portion of the mouse and just click and drag back. So wherever you want to go, click and drag back, and there you go. All right, so I've gotten back to my robot here. Now you can zoom in. You'll see that this robot mimics the very robot that we have in class. All right, if you go all the way around it, the only thing that this robot is different in this case is ours is on a table, which we're going to set up today. And then the gripper here is a lot different. And that's probably pretty much it. You know, we do have ours named. You know, it usually has Fanuc and LR Mate wrote up here. But other than that, it's pretty much the same. So again, the way you can move around or pan around this robot is just by holding the right click button. Okay, so right click is your friend. Now you will be doing some left clicking when you need to grab something, you know, so if you needed to grab the end of this gripper, you know, you can grab it. Um, one thing to note is see how the hand is popping up with the X. If I actually hold down my left click button with that hand there, I can actually raise and lower that portion. Okay. Same thing with the Y here. If I hold it down here, I can move it in and out like that. So that's just me grabbing this little orient here. Now on the very end, you'll see that it has like a loading sign. And if I wanted to roll that Y, I could just roll it up and down. Okay. So that's just a couple ways that you could use the mouse to actually navigate the robot. All right. If you wanted to, let's say you wanted to drag it down here, you could drag it here and you'd be, you know, maybe a little bit faster than trying to jog it. But just remember that you have to have it hovering. The hand has to be showing and then you have to hold the left button. All right. So there you go. Now, as far as where's the teach pendant and things of that nature, there's a couple places you can find it. You can left click on robot and there's teach pendant there and you can pull it up, which I will do for you guys. Now, if the teach pendant is too big for you or your liking, you can always kind of size it down a little bit. Do note if you size it down a little bit too small, you may see some stuff off screen, so you may have to come back and open it up a little bit. But that's one way to get to the teach pendant. And then the other way is right here. You'll see a little teach pendant icon. Now I have the 9.30 version. So the newer version, I think the teach pendant is back maybe over here. Could be right here. I can't really remember, but it's still on this little bar here. So one thing that is kind of noteworthy too is this little joint jog tool with the hand over the robot. So if I click on that, now all of a sudden you see a bunch of circles here on the robot. Now, as far as aesthetics, it doesn't look very pleasing, but with those green circles and those little bars, you can actually left click on it and it'll tell you, you know, rotate it this way or that way. So if you wanted to rotate joint 6 there, you can rotate joint 6. You have joint 5, you can pick it up, push it down, joint 3 here, raise it and lower it, joint 2, and then you got joint 1 here. Alright, so that's just another cool um, use of this actual robot here, or being able to actually maneuver the robot. So one thing to note too, this is just like our robot here. If the cables are coming out of the back, then this would be the front of the robot here. Alright, so this is what the front of the robot would be. So same kind of deal, cables coming out of the back, this is the front. So everything is oriented from, in the world frame, from this position right here. Alright, from the base of this robot here. Alright, so if you're looking at it, X positive and Cartesian would be straight out in front of the robot, Y positive would be to the robot's left, and then Z positive would be up. Okay, so that's kind of a breakdown on how to actually move the robot. Now what we're going to do though is we need to set up a fixture. So we're going to get this robot looking almost like the robot in class, because I feel like that'll make everything a whole lot easier. So I have a couple CAD files I'm going to send you through an email, and I will show you how to actually open those CAD files. All right, or add those CAD files to your video. So the first thing we want to do here is we've got our robot, and I want to add a table. Okay, so I'm going to, again, depending on which version you uploaded, if you uploaded the 9.4, it may look a little bit different. So I'm going to add a single CAD file by left clicking here, and if it won't let me go back, which it doesn't seem to want me to do, just click on object here and then choose table number 10. I think table number 10 is the one that we want. Yes, that's the one we want right there. Alright, so by default, the from the center of the work cell here, the table is actually at 1,000 meters off of X, 1,000 millimeters off of Y, and then it's actually 3,000 millimeters above that. Okay, so if we want to set the table down, we can right there. What I'd like to do is just at this point leave everything like it is. You could actually scale the table size here by making it a little bigger, by changing this 1 to a 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. I think that the way it looks though with the 1, if it need to upsize it, we will, but I think it'll be okay as a 1 here. So let's just hit OK. And then now, like I said, we have a table in outer space here. So if you're down here and you can't figure out what to do or how to move this table, just remember to click on your middle mouse and then scroll up there, or move your mouse towards the up position, or pull it towards you, which would move the screen up. Now here you have this little oriented tool right here, and what we're going to do is, if we want to lower it, is we're just going to, remember, put your hand over the line here and drag it down. Alright, now we don't necessarily have to drag it down. If when we set it up, we could go into our properties. Let's just go properties here, table 10 properties. Now if we wanted this thing to be at the actual grayscale, we could just hit 0 and be done with it. Alright, so now our table is actually right there at the very end. You know, it's on that same plane as the actual gray scale there. Alright, so with our robot, we want to get our robot on top of it. There's a couple ways we can do this. We could actually right click, go into the properties, and then change the location of the robot. Well, we know that the table's at 1,000 millimeters X and 1,000 millimeters Y. And then now we would have to know where the tabletop is. Okay, so you could measure that, but with the robot being kind of big, you can actually almost see it here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to scroll into the robot. I'm going to grab the Z and I'm going to go up positive with it. All right, once I move this robot up, I can either move the robot to the table, or I can now move the table back to the 0 position. Now I don't really care where you have the table at. If you want to follow my directions here, that you're welcome to do that. But as long as there's a table with an LRMake 200 ID on it, it can be anywhere you would like it to be. Okay, So I'm going to apply that and hit OK, and you'll see that now the table has been moved. All right. So in Roboguide, what happens is when you're doing something, you can see here that the robot just goes kind of right through it because it doesn't really care about the stuff that's in the surroundings. Now, in real life, you would not be able to do that. The robot would have crashed. So just do take note of that. So what I like to do at this point is click back on the robot base, kind of level down right there to where you see the robot base on the table, and then I just like to kind of set it on the table there. All right, so pretty much on the table at this point. Now what I want to do is I want to move it back some, so I'm going to hit the X, left click and hit the X there and move this thing back a little bit. So I want to kind of move this guy back to the edge of the table, kind of like right there. All right, and that way we know what we got to deal with there. Okay. So once we have it there, it tells us this is where our tabletop is at 700.725 millimeters. All right, so from this origin point here on the grid up to here is 700.725 millimeters. So anytime we're setting something on the table, all we have to do is reference where the robot is on the table and type that into our Z number, and as long as it's positive, it will be up on top of this table here. All right, so we've got our table now, and I want to, like I said, move this guy up some, and move him back. All right, maybe that's what it was. All right, so now we've got him up, and we've got this huge gripper on here. Okay, now that's okay that we got the huge gripper, but we're going to be setting up a tool frame, and then we're also going to be setting up some of our labs here. So we actually want a pointer. So for right now, until we get our gripper drawn in CAD and added in here, we're going to get rid of this jaw gripper here. All right, so I'm just going to click on this second one here, and now by default it's showing me that the end of arm tooling is here at the faceplate. All right, so we're going to have to teach it where the end of arm tooling is. So under EOAT, what we can do is we can do a CAD file. So click on this folder here. Once you click on this folder, if this pops up like mine, you would have to keep going back. So I'm going to go back to Fanuc and then do Roboguide, and I'm going to go to the image library and then EOATS, and then I want a pointer here. I'm going to choose the pointer CSP and then click OK. And then now you see that we have a pointer on here. So your robot should look like this now, all right, with the pointer. Now you're still going to have that green part there because remember the end of arm tooling, what the robot thinks by default is the center of that faceplate of joint 6 there. So still that till we set it up. Now that we have this set up, I do have some CAD files for you that I'm going to send you. All right, once I send them to you, they should be in your downloads folder. So if you were to pull it up here and look at your downloads, do a date modified, the one will be the ATR 280 shapes, and then the other one will be the robotic hex fixtures here. What you want to do once you get here is right click on fixtures and go to the single CAD file, and then choose downloads because that's where it'll probably be since you downloaded it. And first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in the hex space fixture. All right, so once you bring in the hex space fixture and hit OK, it's going to ask you where you want to put it at. If you did not write down the location of it, that's fine. But I believe we were at somewhere around 702 millimeters on the Z positive number there, so we're just going to hit OK, and then once we do that, you'll find it somewhere. All right, so let's go here. There it is. All right, so there's our fixture. It's over here in no man's land. So remember, the way we drag it around is we're going to have to the way this thing was loaded in, it's loaded in on its side. So if we want to get it over to that table, we'd have to know the coordinates of this table here. So we put it at 0 and 0 to the center there. So if we right click on this and change our properties, we can make this a 0 and make this a 0 and then hit OK, and then now it's over there on the table. Now, had you not done that, that would have been fine. You could have just grabbed it, left click, and moved it over to the table. Now, right here, one thing that you are going to want to do is you're going to want to rotate this guy 90 degrees. Okay, so when we're rotating Y, you need to come up here and look at your teach pendant here. So what you want to do is you want to say joint 5 here. Okay, so if you want to actually move this thing up 90 degrees, what you have to do is roll it 90 degrees. And the way we know we're going to roll it 90 degrees is we're going to roll it in a joint 4 motion. So see how I did that just there. So that maybe helps explain some of the yaw, pitch, and roll there. So even though this is an X, Y, and Z coordinate, we're rolling around that X or that Y or that Z. So we need this to be in a 90-degree angle. So once we have that pulled up, we can right click back to our properties. And then right here where it says yaw, let's change that to a positive 90. No big deal. Alright, so positive 90. And it looks pretty good there. So we hit apply. Okay. So it looks like it's setting on the table, you know, like it needs to be. And then now you'll see that that is the same tool center point that which we have in the class. Alright, so we're gonna I'm just gonna move this guy back. And now that it's rotated, remember it was laid over, so now our Z movement or our Z positive would be in the from the origin point, we would be moving it this way. Our Y positive would now be up, and then our X positive would be out this way. So I'm just going to move it back here to the back, and then we can move it down on the table there. All right. So I'm just moved it out of the way there because now we're going to upload our triangle file. All right. So let's right click, add a fixture, do another single CAD file. Go into your downloads here, or wherever you had it at, and just click on the ATR shapes and hit open. And then now once you open it, it's going to say the same thing. All right. I'm going to go on and move this to 0, 0, and then something like 702, I do believe. And then for the scale, let's go to 50. Maybe I did 50. So 50, 50, 50, and apply. And that's at X. And then now we need to raise the roof on this guy. I don't know where he's at. There it is. It doesn't want to let you click on it like such. It should, but if it doesn't, just come over here to your ATR 280 shapes, and then now you can click on it. Alright, so we're going to move this guy back. Move it here. Alright, so what you want to do is you want to go into your properties and make sure you have it at 702, wherever the tabletop height is, and then you want to be at 90 degrees on that roll there. Alright, so I don't care if you have it facing, let me move this out of your way. I don't care if you have it facing you or the user, however you want to manipulate that, but just note that it needs to either be facing you or the robot for this initial first setup. Okay, I'm going to hit OK here, and then I'm going to make sure I'm clicked on ATR 280 shapes, and then I'm just going to move it over here to my table by doing such. Alright, and then there we go. And then And now there we go. All right, so I've got it in front of the robot here. I don't think my robot looks like it's not centered. So let's try to center this piece of paper. Oh, that's my table. All right. Move this guy here over. Move this guy here over. It kind of looks like he's in the center there. All right, so the reason this looks a little bit funky is because the file was one file versus two, so that's why you're getting two of these here. I probably will get that replaced to where this is just one file here, but we will eventually use the NCC robotics thing. So yeah, we should be good there. Okay, and then there you go. So when we get ready to set up our user frame and our tool frame, we'll have our tool frame reference tool there, and then we'll have our user frame right here. All right, so